Do you believe that the person that they have in custody is the assassin, that he acted alone, according to what law enforcement's telling us, that the extent to which we know that text exchange is it, or is there more that we're not being told?
Number one, I think it was the first to say it, and this is why I think the terrorism is so important. We must take this away, what local authorities trying to do, and I think even elements of the FBI, from a simple murder investigation, assassination, but a murder investigation, to a broader, how did this happen? Really to get them back of a conspiracy if it exists. And that's why I think the terror designation will begin to help us do it even more than RICO charges. Number two, on the evidence that I have been presented, and I have been very close on top of this, and I'm talking about video, text, etc. No, I just don't believe it. First off, the text message exchange is an insult to our intelligence. It is impossible, and don't treat me like an idiot that this guy wrote those text messages, okay? It strains credulity and treats you like an idiot. So I don't know what's happened, but I'm telling you right now, that was not written by the kid in the moment. Think about it for a second. He's just executed, assassinated, right? One of the most prominent people in the world. It's going to be a world event. He can already tell that. And he's got enough time to have phrases like, hate can't be negotiated with, or it's everything from the grammar to the structure to how long was the ellipses, everything like that. But then it was the details. Like he's telling his lover that, oh, my father's gotten so MAGA since Trump. They've had a million conversations about that. If it was done, it would be done quickly. That was a bad Hollywood script.
All right, guys, we have made it through the weekend. This is not your normal work week, however. A lot going on, and we're going into a weekend where the whole base of the MAGA movement and so many others are headed to Arizona to pay tribute and remember the life and the legacy and the work, the movement that 31-year-old Charlie Kirk led. And that now we know his wife, Erika, will be taking over. Unbelievable. And I call your attention to my newsletter this week. The last few, they've been free, so there's no cost here. Just go to SeanSpicer.com. I wrote today about 31 years old because I reflected on it a lot. And I talked about this at the panel yesterday. If you guys know, we touched on it, but I thought about it more. What Charlie was able to accomplish at 31. And it's not just reflecting on what Charlie did, but it should, I hope, give all of us a little bit of pause. What are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish? It doesn't have to be the breadth and depth of what Charlie did. Maybe it's just being an amazing father or friend. Maybe it's doing something in our world or living our faith better. I don't know. But it's made me think a lot about who I am and what I want to be remembered for and what do I want to accomplish. Because I think back to where I was at 31 and I go, wow, not sure what people would have said then if my life had ended at that point. 20 years later, I'm still, I've accomplished some things, sure. Who do I want to be remembered as? What kind of person? Think about the tributes pouring out to Charlie. Universally, everybody who knew him basically had the same thing to say. He was kind, he was giving, thoughtful, encouraging. So I just ask you as we go into this weekend, it's not just about Charlie, but it is to some degree about each and every one of us. Reflect on who you are as a person. Who do you want to be? We all have time left. Today, we have tomorrow, hopefully. But Charlie's life was cut way too short. But I imagine as he sits up there and looks down from heaven, he says, you know what? I made a difference. And I want to stop when I do that at some point and look down and say, did I make a difference? And that's what Charlie's life means to me right now is, can I do something? Can I make some impact? So we got a great show. Steve Bannon is here. And as you guys know, Steve Bannon doesn't disappoint. And I'm going to talk to him about all this stuff, these calls for unity, all that kind of stuff. So buckle up. You might want to get yourself an adult beverage if you're of legal age, because Steve does not disappoint. He brings the fire every time. Couple things to ask you. I already told you about the newsletter. Great column today about Charlie. And the last two, please go back and read them, because I wrote one about both sidesism. I've got a rant coming out this weekend. That's why I want you to hit the subscription button and share it with folks. I love the growth of this channel, and the show has been amazing. but we put out these sort of one-offs over the weekend. This weekend, I'm going to talk about both sidesism because I don't think the left gets it. They just don't. And even if you watch on Rumble or X or on YouTube, can you please go to the audio versions, Spotify and Apple, and just put a 5-star review? It's super helpful to the growth of the show. It doesn't cost you a thing. It takes 2 minutes. I really appreciate it. I'll read some back next week again as we get back into the groove. Next week, by the way, what a week. So Sunday, we will carry this tribute to Charlie live. So you can be here and be part of the group chat, and please do. And please share it with others. It's, it's going to be, I think, a real amazing tribute to Charlie Kirk. And it's nice when we can spend it together in the group chat or whatever. Monday, we'll obviously break this all down. Tuesday, John Solomon is back with the latest on so many fronts. He never disappoints. Harmeet Dillon is back with us on Wednesday. So if you can see this, and Eric Trump is going to be with us in I think a week after that. So a lot happening on the show, which is why it's super important that you hit the subscribe and notification button here. Before I get to Steve Bannon, I got to tell you, you guys know Medicare is a mess. It's made worse by brokers who are pushing garbage plans. If you have a mother or a father or uncle, aunt, grandparent, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone is trying to sell your parents or your friends or your family these junk plans. President Trump is in control. The Department of Justice is cracking down, and they just sued 3 major Medicare brokers for claiming to be unbiased while allegedly steering people towards plans that got them big kickbacks. It's a big problem. The lawsuits are ongoing, so it's critical that you find honest help to protect yourself. That's why I want to talk to you guys about Chapter, that you can share this with your friends. It was started by people who went through the experience personally, who had their own parents scammed, and they know what it's like because they got pushed a bad plan, and there was more focus on commissions than actually suiting their parents. I've had this conversation with my own mom, because as you know, they get hit up all the time about what doctors, what benefits they need. Oh, well, we can help you out. That's Chapter's mission is very simple, which is to get every American the honest, straightforward Medicare advice that they need. Here's how they're different. They compare every plan nationwide, not just a handful. So they're dealing with everybody, and they know how to save an average of about $1,000 a person. It couldn't be easier. In under 20 minutes, they'll actually give you all of the options that make sense for you. And if you're on the right plan, they'll just tell you that. They'll say, stick with this one. But if there's a better one that can save you money, like up to $1,000, then they're going to share that with you. That's great. So if you're 64 or older, or know somebody is, maybe you're a caretaker, or it's your parent or grandparent or whatever, aunt, uncle, friend, give them a call at 978-746-2315, 978-746-2315 to make sure that you've got the right Medicare plan for yourself or for a loved one. If you are wondering, if you're listening to the audio version or something or missed that number, it's always in our YouTube show notes. So you can go get that number once again, 1-978-746-2315. If you miss it, obviously go to the Sean Spicer Show on YouTube, go to the show, and you'll see it in the show notes. Before I get to Steve Bannon, who's going to be a great guest and a great guy, let me tell you about another great guy that I always talk to you about, my buddy Leo Grillo. Leo founded Delta Rescue. It started with one dog. He named the dog Delta. It's actually a Doberman. This is the real deal here. And then Leo is very, very proud to tell anybody that is a fellow animal lover that this isn't a shelter. Delta Rescue is the world's largest no-kill sanctuary. Dogs, cats, horses, doesn't matter. Leo Grillo has an amazing heart. If they're malnutrition, abandoned, abused, neglected, Leo says yes every time. It's amazing what he does. And if you go to deltarescue.org, you'll see the amazing videos of how it really is cool to go watch what they do, the breadth and depth and the extent to which they do it. I get excited talking to him. I love actually, I call Leo a friend now because he is one, and we have grown over time to talk about his mission. I was so moved by it. I made a personal contribution to Delta Rescue, and I'd ask you to please do the same. Go to deltarescue.org, make a personal contribution. And if you really are moved, please hit that estate planning kit and make it help make this an enduring mission, because they don't get any big grants or anything like that. deltarescue.org. It's funded entirely by contributions of people like me and you. Without further ado, I want to bring in the host of The War Room, my former colleague at the White House and on the 2016 campaign, Stephen K. Bannon. Steve, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Commander, always great to have you on here, be on here. And I guess it's the last time I can call you Commander, right?
Probably. You got 11 days until that's officially retired, and we move forward a rank.
Move forward as
all right. But regardless, you still salute me. So that's
I got it. I'm a junior officer. Right. I got it.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to tell the Secretary of War that my promotion ceremony is going to be in uniform so that I can say Major Hegseth, but I don't think that's going to fly. Look, I know you're out there in Arizona. Yeah. As we head into the weekend, you're going to be broadcasting live War Room. What is it? I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, the idea that you're out there, that we're filling a football stadium to honor a 31-year-old, to me, just speaks volumes of the impact that Charlie had.
The impact that Charlie had in the moment that we're in, I think both. It's a combination. I mean, Sunday is a MAGA state funeral, right? This is going to be many hours of worship. Then it's going to be a more secular celebration of life for Charlie Kirk, and you're going to have some of the most important people in the country there, both on the religious side and in the presentation. This is a MAGA state funeral, and I think it's being put together by the Turning Point team with all the kind of class and thought and reflectiveness that Charlie had. But no, it's both the impact of one guy. And look, I tell people I've had the opportunity to work with Andrew Breitbart and Charlie Kirk, and both of those are generational talents. They cannot be replaced. And people run around trying to replace them. You're just wasting your time. These guys come along once a generation. And you've got Trump, who I think comes along, as I said, the third time. We've had General Washington, President Lincoln, and President Trump. So it's a very unique time. But two of these were cut down really in the prime of life, one by a heart attack and the other by an assassin's bullet. So it's going to be very important. And I think everybody, all of your audience, the podcast audience, ought to tune in, because it's going to be a historical event. It'll be an event people will talk about many, many decades from now.
If one of the speakers called you and said, Steve, no one knows the MAGA movement better than you, what should I say? What should the message the rest of the world hears today? How would you answer that?
That Charlie Kirk's work's unfinished, and we're going to finish what we started. I think that's what the whole purpose of Charlie's life was. And the last weekend of his life, as given as busy as this young guy was, and the building the app, and I don't think people really understand the scale of the apparatus of Turning Point. If you see their physical plan, I mean, what he's done in so many different areas is amazing. And I was, in one of his original pitches when the whole Turning Point was to kind of take over student governments, right? What he accomplished going into the heart of one of our problems, the education system and the really neo-Marxist takeover from kindergarten all the way up to college, to go into the lion's den and to do that. But his work is not finished, and we have to finish what we started. This is not a moment of national unity. The MAGA state funeral on Sunday it'll be a unifying moment to those people, I believe, that still believe in the greatness of the American Republic, in the concept of make America great again, to go back and to bring back and to basically enforce the greatest values this country's ever had. Not the people that are mocking Charlie Kirk, and the people that are mocking his children, and the people that are skipping around that he's dead. You can't unify with that. And that's fine. It's not that I'm not whining about it, but I say, don't look for unity. We are about victory. So I think if I would say, look, this MAGA movement, which is a working class, middle class, and made up, because of Charlie, of a huge contingent of people under 30 years old, under 35 years old, who really had no association with politics at all. And as you know, Sean, having been more in the more traditional Republican Party before you became part of President Trump's movement, we've had college Republicans. You've had really good organizations, and they were able to move the ball only so much forward with all that hard work and great arguments, right? Charlie Kirk took it a whole nother level and brought in many people that weren't just drawn to politics. One of the reasons I think he was able to do that and the other organizations didn't is that you can't look at Charlie Kirk's work unless you look at the religious side of it. Like I said, he went the last weekend of his life, he went to Korea, and I was supposed to go, but because of other scheduling things, I couldn't. So Grace Chong and Mo went with Charlie to an event.
Wait, just so people understand, Tell us, Grace and Maureen Bannon.
Grace Chung is the chief operating officer, CFO, and head and queen of the trolls for War Room. Been with me for years. She's of Korean descent. And Mo Bannon is our CEO, West Point grad, 101st Airborne. And they were invited with Mina Kim to go to Korea. Charlie went. Now think about it. With everything he had going on, he went over, and this is like you fly over in a 12-hour flight, you do 6 hours, 8 hours of stuff, and you get back on the plane. The last weekend of his life, he went over, and half of it were kind of turning point rallies about getting people involved, young people involved, to understand how you had to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party that has really influenced this party that just took power on a major American ally, particularly in the Pacific, one of our key allies in the Pacific. Part of it is that. The other part was kind of an evangelical, because South Korea is one of the most Christian and most evangelical, with Southern Baptists and, evangelicals. Charlie was there for the evangelical. And I tell people, you cannot separate out Charlie's work. He was he's a Christian martyr, particularly if you look at the hate. And as we drill down on Antifa and about the terrorist organization and all of this underneath it, the hatred of Charlie Kirk was not simply his politics, was not just his Republican politics and limited government and everything he stood for in the MAGA movement. A big part of it was his spirituality and his Christianity imbued his work. And I think you see that in his last weekend of his life in Korea, where he combined both. And then you had so beautifully these Korean young people going through the streets of Seoul and other cities in South Korea chanting, "I am Charlie Kirk," after he died on Thursday and Friday. So it's extraordinary. And I would tell somebody, look, our work is far from finished. Charlie Kirk's work's far from finished. That's why they assassinated him. They think by taking out people, they try to assassinate Trump. They think by assassinating people, they can take the most important people in our movement and eliminate them, and it'll just die. To honor Charlie is to honor his work. To honor his work is to get off your ass and get to work every day. We have to finish what we started. And that, to me, would be the greatest way to honor Charlie Kirk.
So reconcile this for me. The left and their media buddies want to talk about taking the temperature down and unity. You just referenced that. Charlie Kirk stood in quads because he wasn't allowed inside the buildings to have a dialogue. And you're right. He talked about his faith all the time. And you read, whether it's the New Testament, the Old Testament, talking about turning the other cheek, what Christ would ask us to do. So reconcile what Charlie did, and everyone says he stood for, his Christian faith, and then explaining to people why you don't want unity. And I get there's a difference. If you're throwing a rock, or you're saying that you celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, I agree with you. Not only do I not want, it is impossible to have unity with someone like that. But for all of the folks in the media who go, this is a moment to take the temperature down. Take the temperature down, because now they understand we're very focused on total vigor. Hang on for a second. Charlie Kirk would go in, and these campuses, Sean, he would go into these campuses, these hotbeds of radical with the professors and the radical students. And what you saw there was lived Christianity. Charlie would get the microphone, and it would be debate. He'd want you to come. In fact, if you disagreed with him, he had the turning point. People say, get those folks up closer into the front of the line. I want to give them more time, right? I want to change some minds. How was Charlie trying to change minds? It's kind of like Bill Buckley, through debate, through argument, through the marshaling of facts, but always as a happy warrior. You can watch hours and hours of tape where people confronting him, calling him every name in the book, and Charlie was still trying to engage him with this kind of humility and patience. Okay, that's the best of the best, right? And that they assassinated. Okay, so it's time in the left, in the media. Oh, let's take the temperature now because they got caught out. Right. First, it was, this is groypers, or this is MAGA, all lies, all misrepresentations. So no. We're not taking any temperatures down. We're not going to unify. We're not having a group hug. We're not going to have a kumbaya moment. You notice we haven't burned any buildings, haven't had any protests. Nobody's been killed. We do not resort to violence because we don't need to resort to violence. We essentially have the levers of power now in our government, right, in our governmental structure. And we know, combined with the MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again, and what Turning Point did, and where demographics and the shift in the country is going, we know we're going to have an electoral college advantage. And now I think we're going to pick up, 17 seats when you add Texas.
to on a gross amount without netting out California and others of congressional districts? No. Our moment is now, and that's why we have to drive it forward. And so, no, we're not taking any temperature down. Now, we're not going to resort to violence like the left does. Look, they just murdered these transgender, and this is the paramilitary aspect of the Antifa movement and the radical movement is the transgender. And let me be blunt about that. If you really look at it, I think the big portion of that, including the men and women's sports, all that, and a lot of this violence are just cunning, manipulative men, right, who are part of this movement and now form militia groups that are being radicalized, and they have to be shut down. I think, and I've advocated to the president, besides the designating of Antifa, because that gives you the entry point to go and look at all the foundations and the funding and all of it, is he should declare martial law in Portland, Oregon, and at least in 8-block area, and arrest all the Antifa there. Just round them up and deal with them. So no, I realize I am to the more action-oriented, hardcore side of this, but you know me, Sean. I drive a stake in the ground, and eventually people come our way because they try to do every other thing. They try to compromise. They try to work. Look at the Republicans. Have the Republican Party and good people, men and women of goodwill, not try to work with the left, not try to work with the media? You saw it up close and personal. They're not ever prepared to give you a shot, right? Ever. So you can continue to do that. But I think Obama's right. We are in an inflection point in the country. And one side is going to win and one side is going to lose. There's nothing to compromise about. If you look at their core values of what they believe and the core values of what we believe, they're just too separated. And we're never going to allow this country to be physically broken up. You know, MTG and other people that have advocated that, or people on the right, it's just not going to happen. Too much patriot blood has been shed in this nation to make sure this nation is united on the vision of the revolutionary generation of the people who founded this country. So we owe it to them to keep this country together, and we can do it if we just finish the work that is before us. If we finish Charlie Kirk's work, we will, using democracy, their favorite term, right? We will have victory after victory after victory, and really put in a permanent majority of MAGA in this country politically.
You name-checked President Obama. He also said cancel culture is back. He's accusing us of cancel culture now because we're calling out people. How would you respond to that?
I don't know. They didn't happen to. I was War Room is as big as it is, and I'm still banned on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and I think Instagram, on every platform. We were banned first for the pandemic, or which we were the first show to ever go the pandemic. I talked about gain of function after I think the third day after we changed the name of the show to War Room Pandemic, and then for the election fraud and all of it. So we're banned on every platform. I don't remember anybody standing up for anybody in MAGA that was canceled, debanked, et cetera. So no, I strongly believe in getting rid of the Jimmy Kimmels. And let's be blunt, the Jimmy Kimmel situation was a situation of the affiliates that have to do the local commercials and live off the tire ads and getting the Orkin guys to your house and all of that. They called up ABC Disney and said, "Hey, we got news for you. You can put Jimmy Kimmel up as much as you want, but he ain't going to come on our channels." And so it was an economic move. And I fully support that. I think we got to do a lot more. I think we have to hit a blowtorch to the left and just purge all this virulent, dangerous, violent anti-Americanism. And so I'm a huge supporter of continue on. And look, of course, my strategy, I keep saying, a maximalist strategy, right, with seizing the institutions, including the media institutions, and do it with a sense of urgency that you're burning daylight. And we only have so much time to kind of finish what we started. So no, Obama and those guys can all whine about cancel culture. They weren't whining when they were in charge and dropping the hammer on all of us. No,
not at all. So what's the next target? We got Colbert, we got Kimmel. What do you think's next?
Well, I mean, the president said it's going to be NBC, right? It's the late night host. I don't know. I think it's deeper than that. I believe you're going to see a major revolution over at CBS News. I just think now, like I say, seize the institutions. I think people from a practical basis, the capitalists, the owners and the shareholders, are going to say, hey, we can't keep these guys out anymore. They happen to be, 55% of the American people going to 65% with the demographic shifts in the country overall, more to the MAGA South and Southwest, to the shift even inside those states themselves to just leave these kind of islands. If you look at the map of the country, you have the you have the woke universities, right? And you have these urban areas. That's about it. The rest of the country's red. And I think finally Wall Street and corporate America are realizing that we're not going to back down. We're not going to stop. They debanked us. They tried to fire people, all of it. That's not going to happen. And I'm a huge supporter of getting rid of these people that mock Charlie Kirk and mocked his children. I think it's fantastic. And I just say we should do more of it. It should be more intense, more urgent. And I'm a huge believer in this. I think you're going to see it picking up momentum, not just simply because the president, I think, believes it needs to be done. And people around him needs to be done. You can just listen to Stephen Miller on Sean Hannity the other night, or when he was on Charlie Kirk's show with Vice President Vance on Monday. And Stephen, as you know, Sean, you know him as well as anybody, how long Stephen's been working on this project. So no, and this is why I think what one of the biggest changes we've seen over the last 72 hours is President Trump now coming out and saying, okay, we are going to name Antifa and its affiliates a major terrorist organization. That's essentially a game changer. And that's why the mainstream media is apoplectic about that. When he signs that executive order, they're going to realize, I think the game is over, because then you can start getting into the financing, you start to get into the operation, you start getting into the interconnectivity with politicians and with media organizations and with these NGOs. So I think it's a game changer. I think it shows you that this Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon school of thought here is winning out.
Katie Miller was on the show yesterday. Regardless of what anyone thinks of Stephen Miller, Katie, the stuff that they've put their family through is just it's unacceptable. It's horrible.
And by the way, I'm glad you did that, because I've told Katie, I don't think they've put out there enough how their family's been terrorized. And this is when people tell me, well, the woke culture, but I said it's not on the same side. It's ridiculous.
No.
Look at what's happened. And these people are dangerous.
The both sidesism is I've been saying this for a week. This is not both sides, because you know what? Until you have somebody standing outside your house threatening your family, don't talk to me. Until you show up on a college campus with a SWAT team to protect you, explaining to you your out routes, don't talk to me. The left has no idea what this is like.
Sean, he's a buddy of yours, so you know him pretty well. Greg Gutfeld, because he and Andrew Breitbart, they were they're some of the most strongest guys about First Amendment free speech. When they hit his tripwire the other day on the show, I thought he'd give the most magnificent 3 or 4 minutes. It was just pure, I've had it. We're not doing this anymore. We're not going to do both sidesism. And it was magnificent. I recommend everybody watch that, because you got to go pretty far in the woods to hit Gutfeld's tripwire when it comes to free speech. And he's finally had enough of it. And one thing, people do not know what people working for President Trump have gone through, right? And what their daily lives are. People in the White House and dangers. I mean, the Millers have had pretty big security from the beginning. And I mean, like Secret Service to the max, for the reason is they're under death threat constantly. And that should not have to happen if you're serving your country. It doesn't happen when they're in office. It didn't happen under Biden or Obama. So it just shows you there's no both sides. And this is why I say there's nothing to unify around. This is about victory. One side's going to win and one side's going to lose, and we're going to win. And the reason we're going to win, they eventually come to the conclusion we're never going to quit, right? If we do not quit, we will win, right? It's kind of like the Revolutionary War. If you don't quit and they know you're not going to quit, eventually they'll say, okay, we give up. We'll go to the Cotswolds, right? So we don't want to live this life anymore. And that's how intense I think we have to be.
So I know you were critical of Utah Governor Spencer Cox. Do you think it's that a guy like him, who seems like a really nice guy, but I don't know that, with all due respect, that the governor's ever had that kind of force put against him, right? He lives in Utah. He talks about Utah nice and all this stuff. And the question I have for you is it because he's misguided or he's never experienced it?
No, I think it's totally different. Hang on, first off, if Sean Spicer was our comms director, and look, I'm close to Chung and these guys, but I've been on this. I don't know why he was selected to give the opening thing on that Thursday night when he walked through the whole police and gave a lot of false information, which is not his fault. He's not a law enforcement guy. No, let's go back to Cox. And it has nothing to do with he's the most virulent anti-Trump governor of a red state. Okay, let's put that aside. He has bought into the whole woke mentality. My problem with Cox started early on. Cox is a guy, remember, I think it was in his first term, had the Zoom call where he went through the pronouns and he told all the transgender ideology and all the schools in Utah, public schools in Utah, that, hey, we're going to have an aggressive program for promoting this. And he gave his pronouns, right? He has been a proponent, and his wife, Abby Cox, who has led this kind of focus on the empathy crisis, which pushes SEL, social emotional learning. The young man that is so allegedly shot, or the group in the chat rooms, also what you're seeing with Mom Donnie or Luigi Mangione, it's all the same thing. They are indoctrinated from kindergarten on by, I would say, a group of essentially terrorists who get them, inform them to hate America, hate the American Republic, our culture, the taproot of the Judeo-Christian West. These kids are taught to hate, and now they're taught that, hey, maybe I'm a little girl instead of a little boy, and it's twisted from day one. How do I know this? Don't listen to Steve Bannon. Read the manifestos. Read the manifesto of the Minneapolis shooter. Go back and read the manifesto, which we only have 80% of the young woman who went through the Christian school in Nashville. Just read these manifestos. They're heart-rendering. Why are they heart-rendering? What these children go through at the hands of supposedly, doctors and psychiatrists and school psychiatrists. It's absolutely sick. Okay, and it twists these people. Cox is the epitome of that. And Cox talks to a deeper issue. One of the reasons I'm saying Cox has got to be part of this investigation, because that school system created this. And I've had a huge outpouring of conservative Mormons because, Sean, I went out there right after Charlie was shot on was it Wednesday or Thursday? Wednesday, got there and spent 4 days there. I was shocked what I found in Salt Lake. And I think this is a lesson for all Republican politicians and MAGA. The world has changed so much. I thought the last time I've been to Salt Lake was during the Winter Olympics back, a couple of decades ago. Hey, there are as many LGBTQ flags as American flags. It has got a big woke segment in the Mormon church, because remember, the shooter, all these people associated, plus the young man who was transitioning that killed his parents and burned the house down in St. George, where the shooter actually lives, is also Mormon. There's a huge rift, I think, in the Mormon church between more traditional Mormons and kind of that rock-ribbed Americana that the Mormon church has always, represented to so many people, and this kind of new woke Mormonism. That has to be addressed. With Cox specifically, it has to be his education policies, particularly the pushing of this radical transgender ideology and how it warped people. So no, I think he's part of the problem. I think he was a horrible spokesman to have up there, right? Yeah. And it's and not just because he's anti-Trump, because he's kind of the guy that's brought this on. And I'm adamant. He can say I'm a conflict entrepreneur, but hey, it's called War Room for a reason, baby. No, we're not. I'm not shy about what we're doing here. We're in a conflict, right? We're in a civil war in this country. You're going to have a civil war in England. What I want to do is make sure that this happens, as we've always advocated, peacefully, and that we're the victors at the end.
Yeah. You used a word that I think I want to pick up on, because you said something a second ago that might have gotten unnoticed. You said alleged. Do you believe that the person that they have in custody is the assassin, that he acted alone, according to what law enforcement's telling us, that the extent to which we know that text exchange is it, or is there more that we're not being told?
Number one, I think it was the first to say it, and this is why I think the terrorism is so important. We must take this away, what local authorities trying to do, and I think even elements of the FBI, from a simple murder investigation, assassination, but a murder investigation, to a broader, how did this happen? Really, to get them back of a conspiracy if it exists. And that's why I think the terror designation will begin to help us do it even more than RICO charges. Number two, on the evidence that I have been presented, and I have been very close on top of this, and I'm talking about video, text, etc. No, I just don't believe it. First off, the text message exchange is an insult to our intelligence. What do I mean? I work the production, we have Grace Chung and Mo and Natalie Winters. So many of our people, the front groups, the marketing side and doing the media are young women who we're training and bringing up. The actual physical production of the broadcast and the podcast, all that, I employ a lot of young men, TV producer types, right? Or learning the trade, 22 to 29 years old. They text like they speak, and they don't speak like that. They're the most inarticulate generation in our country. If you can get a couple of Uggs out of them, you're doing great. It is impossible. And don't treat me like an idiot that this guy wrote those text messages. Okay. It strains credulity and treats you like an idiot. So I don't know what's happened, but I'm telling you right now, that was not written by the kid in the moment. Think about it for a second. He's just executed, assassinated, right? One of the most prominent people in the world. It's going to be a world event. He can already tell that. And he's got enough time to have phrases like, hate can't be negotiated with, or it's everything from the grammar to the structure to how long was the ellipses, everything like that. But then it was the details. Like he's telling his lover that, oh, my father's gotten so MAGA since Trump. They've had a million conversations about that. If it was done, it would be done quickly. That was a bad Hollywood script, right? We got to get to the bottom of all of this. We have to get to the bottom of all of it in the Discord chats. And my big concern has been, why have everybody in the Discord chats not been rolled up? How's the lover? I'm so tired of hearing, well, he didn't know anything about it. He said he didn't know anything about it. Oh, fine, great. That's not a problem. Roll him up. Roll the parents up. You got to roll the parents up. Why was the car left to sit out in front of the house for hours after hours? And most importantly, the videos don't make sense, the ones they put up. Whether he's walking through peg leg on the doorbell ringer, which they kind of buried after a while, but now they brought it back up on the day they charged him, to walking up the steps where there's no peg leg, to the fact that the governor on television that first night talked about him coming in one set of clothes and changing on the roof and then going to another set of clothes. Also, I don't know if you can see a rifle being dropped off, and I don't think a guy who's literally sitting there, maybe in the last moments of his life, is going to be worried about grandpa's rifle. And grandpa's going to be really upset that I lost his rifle. Dude, you just murdered in cold blood a young man that the whole world's going to want you up against a firing squad. Your family name's ruined forever. Come on. I don't buy any of it. I have advocated to Cash personally and also on the show nonstop. I do believe, and you don't want to show all your evidence, but somebody's got to get up, law enforcement, and make a presentation. That presentation, the DA has already done it. I think Cash or somebody at DOJ, if it's Pam Bondi and Cash should be saying, and Dan Bongino, if other professionals and technicians or more technical people have to talk, let them do that. But before the nation, we just ought to walk through the videos they presented the other day in court and some of these text messages and others and make a logical presentation. In the entire war room audience, who would be open to believe that, yes, a guy living with a tranny who is a furry and who watches tranny porn and is a lefty, be open to the fact, yes, he killed Charlie Kirk. Not one person in our audience believes it. And they want to be shown the facts and they want to be shown the detail. And I hope by designating this a terrorist organization that the FBI or local authorities do not try to push through a quick narrative that this is a lone gunman, because I tell you, what we must avoid here, Sean, for this generation, for Charlie Kirk's widow, for his children, for this generation, and for the country, we cannot have grassy knoll 2.0. We can't do that. It's still, it is the beginning of really the decline of America, was from the moment Kennedy was shot, and we still don't have the answers today. So we can't have that happen here. And we have to move heaven and earth to make sure that all the information comes out.
Makes you wonder. That's why ABC News thought it was a very thoughtful exchange, because they were touched by it.
Not thoughtful, loving. I mean,
yeah, loving.
I played that in the audience. I mean, so first off, that's something about the mainstream media. I was shocked the number, and this is why the gap's unbridgeable. There were so many of the reporters that were teary-eyed about the loving exchanges between that. And to his defense, for one moment, they were like Shakespeare's sonnets. Honey, I just thought, we'd live forever to old age. I'd never have to slow it. No guy in the pressure of a manhunt and coming down on you is going to write a Shakespeare sonnet to somebody. It does not happen. Okay. That is why it's an insult to our intelligence. Now, the guy being moved, I did mention that David Muir was the executive producer of ABC News, but hey, I tell you, the guy wrote a Shakespeare sonnet in the heat of battle, and it just didn't happen. It just strains credulity. And that's why putting out those text messages were and using those to me as the direct evidence to convince the nation that this guy is an insult to our intelligence.
I want to cover one more thing with you, and I'll ask it at the same time. You figure out how to answer it. The Fed only cut interest rates by a quarter basis point this week. Should Donald Trump fire Jerome Powell, number one? And if so, or when, who should be the replacement?
He should not fire Jerome Powell. I've been an advocate of not doing that. Jerome Powell, I do believe if you look at what Scott Bessent has said about the way the structure of interest rates are too high and they should be cut. I think you're offered another 50 basis points for the end of the year, 225. Steve Mirren, who's the president's interim governor, was the only no, and most of these are unanimous. The unanimity is usually historic as a custom and tradition. He voted no because he wanted 50 basis points. My strong belief, and I've been an advocate of this, that given where we are with the economy, given where we are with Build Back Better, the what I call the supply side tax cut of this, I'm an advocate, and I've been, that Scott Bessent has proven, and this is not because he's a close friend and a contributor and on War Room for years. He's proven, as I said at the time, was the big fight between Elon and Lutnick and myself and Scott Bessent and others with Scott Bessent, that Scott would be a safe pair of hands. And what we need now more than ever is a safe pair of hands that the capital markets can respond to. And I think that where the stock market is, and particularly where the bond market is, shows that Scott has done a great job of interpreting President Trump's economic plans, executing them, and being able to articulate that to the global capital markets. I am a big believer that on an interim basis, that Scott Bessent should be both the head of the Federal Reserve and the Secretary of Treasury, and maybe get through the midterm elections, step down as Treasury and take over the Federal Reserve. I know there's guys that I really admire, like Kevin Warsh and Waller and other people that the president's thinking about. I just think for where we are, because I do believe we're going to go through some pretty choppy water here, that Scott Bessent being dual hat, like Marco Rubio's National Security Council, he's National Security Advisor and Secretary of State for an interim period. I think Scott should do it, get through the midterms as both, and then step down as Treasury and take over the remaining 9 years or so of
I'm convinced. I've said that there's a reason he keeps bringing, and I say this respectfully, people that are definitely not getting picked. He picks these people that he's parading out for the press that aren't good on TV, which is a Donald Trump thing, or have no relationship with him. He's literally setting himself up so that Donald Trump can say, "Why don't you do it? I really need you to do it." That's the strategy, Steve.
You can tell that Commander, soon to be Captain Spicer, has a very deep understanding of President Trump and the way things roll. I could not agree with you more, sir. But this is the first time I've heard anybody have the balls to say it publicly. But
no, this is Bessent. Look at the people that Scott Bessent is parading out. Again, respectfully, they're not good on TV and they don't have a relationship. At the end of this interview process, President Trump's going to say, "Scott, I've seen all these people. None of them can do it. I need you."
I just want to say that Scott is not doing a Dick Cheney's vice president hunt for Bush, right? He's not. They are looking, but you have to, and this gets back to why your point's so well taken and why Scott was a perfect fit. And look, people said, "Well, you're going on a limb." I said, no, this guy is really knows capital markets. He's very highly respected in that inner sanctum of guys that move markets. And he's very articulate. He's got kind of that Yale professorial approach to him. These people are very rare. It's the reason the Charlie Kirks and the Andrew Breitbarts, these are Donald Trump. These are rare people that don't come along. Now, Scott's not at that level, but for what he does, it's pretty rare. And you're absolutely correct. President Trump, and I think one of the things he's learned, Sean, is that he has to have a relationship that somebody knows how to interpret what he wants to do. And then they have to be able to articulate it and stand in the breach when you take some incoming. Because working for President Trump and executing his policies, as you know better than anybody, you're going to take some incoming, right? And that's where his real test, where the rubber meets the road. You're correct. The people that they're putting forward today are lacking on some of those big areas. I 100% agree with you. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of the dual hat, like with Marco Rubio. And I'm not saying it's permanent. It's just for a while. Let's get us through the midterms. I would say Scott would step down as Treasury, continue on with the Federal Reserve. And here's better. I think you will have overwhelming support when this becomes evident as a potential alternative. I think you'll be overwhelming support from Wall Street and the major financial institutions in the world, capital markets institutions, and the finance ministers throughout the world, that Bessent's a guy they would love to have in that position as a safe pair of hands.
All right. Steve, I appreciate all your time. I know you guys got a big show this weekend there in Arizona, where you are right now. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you this weekend.
We'll be live starting approximately 10 a.m. on Sunday.
Eastern or Pacific? Or Pacific?
So every time's in Eastern time. We'll go live right now, tentatively 10 a.m. Eastern. I think 11 o'clock is where the religious part starts, the celebration life a little after that. But we'll be with Real America's Voice on our channel, doing anchoring the coverage from basically 10 in the morning to probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 at night, which we'll pitch it to one of our other shows on Rav that'll take you through basically midnight. But it'll be an entire day of, and we're going to bring in people globally. We're really going to do this right. And fitting with Charlie Kirk and the fact that it is the first MAGA state funeral.
Yeah. Well, you and I also share that all times in the world should be stated in Eastern Standard Time.
100%.
That's 100%.
100%.
Steve, have a great weekend. Travel safe. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander.
All right. What did I tell you at the beginning? Steve Bannon does not disappoint, does he? He brought the fire today. And he also, I think, gave us an understanding of what's at stake here. The media, the left, they want us to take the temperature down, to call for unity. And I say that respectfully, that I don't know that everybody who's not been really in the game fully appreciates what it's like to be doxxed, as Katie Miller said on Thursday, to have people sitting outside of your house, to yell at your kids, to confront you or threaten you online, over the phone, in person, on a college campus. The left just doesn't understand this because they've never had to be, and I'm glad they haven't. I don't wish it on anybody. It's scary, to be honest with you, not knowing what you're confronting and knowing that someone could have a weapon of some sort. We've seen it. President Trump, Charlie, the nut job on the public transportation down in North Carolina. People are getting attacked. And the left wants to excuse it, call it both sidesism. It's not. It's not the same. And I think that Steve was right. They don't understand. They're afraid that we're finally on to them. So that's their answer, is just to say, oh, both sides do it. Let's move on. And they know the media will cover up for them. I played that clip on Thursday of Jake Tapper. They're going to cover it up. They're going to pretend that it's just both sides. And there's these ulterior motives. Cancel culture's back. It's not the same. And we can't let them get away with that, because that's how they're trying to sweep this under the rug, by claiming it's all the same. And it's not. President Obama's cancel culture is back. It's not. Katie Miller's absolutely right, what she said on Thursday on that panel. They go back and dig stuff up and say, hey, in nursery school, you said all this bad stuff. You should be canceled for it. We're talking about stuff in real time. The idea that you're saying it's okay to kill somebody, to assassinate them, to cheer it on. No, sorry. That's not when you were 8 or 4 or something like that. That's in real time. And it should never be acceptable. And someone on the right does it, I'll call it out too. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. What a great show. As I mentioned, Sunday night, we will be here to carry this starting at 2 o'clock, I think is what we're going to go, 2 o'clock. We will start. We'll carry everything live, possibly have some feedback. And again, I'll be in the chat with you guys. And then Monday, we'll recap it all. Tuesday, John Solomon. Wednesday, Harmeet Dillon. We've got a great show, a great schedule lined up for you. So thank you for tuning in. Please continue to spread the word. Share the link of this show with 5 friends, 10 friends if you can. But we need to continue to grow and be great. And I appreciate everything that you guys have all done to be part of this community. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Sunday for the tribute to Charlie Kirk. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.